Any movings from the mover. Any love from the beloved. Borrow the beloved's eyes. Look through them, and you'll see the beloved's face everywhere. No tiredness, no jaded boredom. I shall be your eye and your hand and your loving. Let that happen, and things you have hated will become helpers. A certain preacher always prays long and with enthusiasm for thieves and muggers that attack people on the street. Let your mercy, O Lord, cover their insolence. He doesn't pray for the good, but only for the blatantly cruel. Why is this? His congregation asks. Because they have done me such generous favors. Every time I turn back toward the things they want, I run into them. They beat me and leave me nearly dead in the road. And I understand again that what they want is not what I want. They keep me on the spiritual path. That's why I honor them and pray for them. Those that make you return, for whatever reason, to God's solitude, be grateful to them. Worry about the others who give you delicious comforts that keep you from prayer. Friends are enemies sometimes, and enemies friends. There is an animal called an ushgur, a porcupine. If you hit it with a stick, it extends its quills and gets bigger. The soul is a porcupine, made strong by stick beating. So a prophet's soul is especially afflicted, because it has to become so powerful. A hide is soaked in tanning liquor and becomes leather. If the tanner did not rub in the acid, the hide would get foul-smelling and rotten. The soul is a newly skinned hide, bloody and gross. Work on it with manual discipline and the bitter tanning acid of grief, and you'll become lovely and very strong. If you can't do this work yourself, don't worry. You don't even have to make a decision one way or another. The friend, who knows a lot more than you do, will bring difficulties and grief and sickness as medicine, as happiness, as the essence of the moment when you're beaten, when you hear checkmate and can finally say, I trust you to kill me. This physical world has no two things alike. Every comparison is awkwardly rough. You can put a lion next to a man, but the placing is hazardous to both. Say the body is like this lamp. It has to have a wick and oil, sleep and food. If it doesn't get those, it will die, and it's always burning those up, trying to die. But where is the sun in this comparison? It rises, and the lamp's light mixes with the day. Oneness, which is the reality, cannot be understood with lamp and sun images. The blurring of a plural into a unity is wrong. No image can describe what of our fathers and mothers, our grandfathers and grandmothers, remains. Language does not touch the one who lives in each of us. There are two kinds of intelligence. One acquired, as a child in school memorizes facts and concepts from books and from what the teacher says, collecting information from the traditional sciences as well as from the new sciences. With such intelligence, you rise in the world. You get ranked ahead or behind others in regard to your competence in retaining information. You stroll with this intelligence in and out of fields of knowledge, getting always more marks on your preserving tablets. There is another kind of tablet, one already completed and preserved inside you. A spring overflowing its spring box, a freshness in the center of the chest. This other intelligence does not turn yellow or stagnate. It's fluid, and it doesn't move from outside to inside through the conduits of plumbing learning. This second knowing is a fountainhead from within you, moving out. A certain man had a jealous wife and a very, very appealing maidservant. The wife was careful not to leave them alone, ever. For 6 years they were never left in a room together. But then one day at the public bath, the wife suddenly remembered that she'd left her silver wash basin at home. "Please go get the basin," she told her maid. The girl jumped to the task because she knew that she would finally get to be alone with the master. She ran joyfully. she flew, and desire took them both so quickly that they didn't even latch the door. With great speed they joined each other. When bodies blend in copulation, spirits also merge. Meanwhile, the wife back at the bathhouse, washing her hair. "What have I done? I've set the cotton wool on fire. I've put the ram in with the ewe." She washed the clay soap off her hair and ran, fixing her chador about her as she went. The maid ran for love. The wife ran out of fear and jealousy. There is a great difference. The mystic flies moment to moment. The fearful ascetic drags along month to month. But also, the length of a day to a lover may be 50,000 years. You can't understand this with your mind. You must burst open. Fear is nothing to a lover, a tiny piece of thread. Love is a quality of God. Fear is an attribute of those who think they serve God, but who are actually preoccupied with penis and vagina. You have read in the text where "they love him" blends with "he loves them." Those joining loves are both qualities of God. Fear is not. What characteristics do God and human beings have in common? What is the connection between what lives in time and what lives in eternity? If I kept talking about love, 100 new combinings would happen, and still I would not say the mystery. The fearful ascetic runs on foot along the surface. Lovers move like lightning and wind. No contest. Theologians mumble, rumble, dumble, necessity and free will, while lover and beloved pull themselves into each other. The worried wife reaches the door and opens it. The maid, disheveled, confused, flushed, unable to speak. The husband begins his 5 times prayer. The wife enters this agitated scene. As though experimenting with clothes, the husband holds up some flaps and edges. She sees his testicles and penis so wet, semen still dribbling out. Spurts of jism and vaginal juices drenching the thighs of the maid. The wife slaps him on the side of the head. "Is this the way a man prays? With his balls? Does your penis long for union like this? Is that why her legs are so covered with this stuff?" These are good questions she's asking her ascetic husband. people who renounce desires often turn suddenly into hypocrites. There was a maidservant who had cleverly trained a donkey to perform the services of a man. From a gourd, she had carved a flanged device to fit on the donkey's penis to keep him from going too far into her. She had fashioned it just to the point of her pleasure, and she greatly enjoyed the arrangement. As often as she could. She thrived. But the donkey was getting a little thin and tired looking. The mistress began to investigate. One day, she peeked through a crack in the door and saw the animal's marvelous member and the delight of the girl stretched under the donkey. She said nothing. Later, she knocked on the door and called the maid out on an errand. A long and complicated errand. I won't go into details. The servant knew what was happening, though. "Ah, my mistress," she thought to herself, "you should not send away the expert. When you begin to work without full knowledge, you risk your life. Your shame keeps you from asking me about the gourd, but you must have that to join with this donkey. There's a trick you don't know." But the woman was too fascinated with her idea to consider any danger. She led the donkey in and closed the door, thinking, "With no one around, I can shout in my pleasure." She was dizzy with anticipation, her vagina glowing and singing like a nightingale. She arranged the chair under the donkey, as she had seen the girl do. She raised her legs and pulled him into her. Her fire kindled more, and the donkey politely pushed as she urged him to, pushed through and into her intestines. And without a word, she died. The chair fell one way, and she the other. The room was smeared with blood. Reader, have you ever seen anyone martyred for a donkey? Remember what the Quran says about the torment of disgracing yourself. Don't sacrifice your life to your animal soul. If you die of what that leads you to do, you are just like this woman on the floor. She is an image of immoderation. Remember her and keep your balance. The maidservant returns and says, "Yes,